Life is not easy. The friction we experience daily, the struggles, the failures, the moments when we want to give up, is an entirely normal baseline. It is the default physical state of trying to move forward against resistance. Yet we look at the people at the top and assume they bypassed this resistance. We imagine their trajectories were completely smooth, free from the brutal friction that grinds the rest of us down. That assumption creates a trap. We convince ourselves that if our current conditions are difficult, we simply aren't ready. So we wait. We pause our ambitions, holding out for a flawless set of circumstances where everything aligns. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Delaying action doesn't insulate you from failure. It subjects you to the inertia of perfectionism. By waiting for zero resistance, you guarantee absolute zero progress. To get anywhere, you have to abandon the comfort of the waiting room. You have to completely sever the idea that perfect readiness is a requirement for action. Look at the chaotic blueprints behind any major achievement. Every successful person you admire once stood exactly where you are right now, paralyzed, uncertain, and staring at a blank slate. They faced rejection, they failed again and again. The early days of their careers were defined by brutal miscalculations and closed doors. The divergence between those who succeed and those who vanish is simple. They refuse to stop applying effort. Winners don't quit when things get hard. They push forward even when everything seems to be against them. This cognitive shift acts as a mechanical bypass. Once you accept that hurdles are a fixed part of the terrain, you stop calculating for a frictionless path and focus entirely on the input of effort. If you believe you can do it, you have already removed the largest internal obstacle to your first step. Success depends on the recurring decision to absorb a hit and keep applying force, ensuring the trajectory remains unbroken despite individual failures. This brings us to a tactical rule. Start now, start messy, start scared, but start. Forcing out that chaotic, ugly first step is an absolute requirement. To break static inertia, a heavy object requires an initial force. The jolt just needs to knock the object out of its resting state. Once out of that recess, any unrefined action translates into a forward-moving vector, because action creates momentum, and momentum creates success. The hardest push is always the first one. Once you are in motion, the coefficient of friction drops. Every subsequent step requires slightly less energy to maintain speed than it did to start from absolute zero. Every small step you take brings you closer to your goal. The exact size or precision of the stride is largely irrelevant compared to the rapid frequency of this compounding motion, not a flawless launch, that actually propels you across the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The quickest way to kill this velocity is by looking sideways. If you match your messy, uncalibrated day 1 against someone else's compounded, highly polished year 10, the contrast will stall you out. So don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your own journey. Maintaining your speed requires an absolute, unyielding tunnel vision on your own coordinates. This visualization shows how a trajectory stabilizes over time. To keep your own line locked on target without being distracted by the surrounding noise, you have to adopt 3 specific behaviors: stay consistent, stay hungry, and stay focused. The environment will constantly throw resistance back at you, but those who reached your target refuse to decelerate when they hit those physical barriers. Extend that relentless push over a long enough timeline, and the mathematics of compounding effort take over. The accumulation of thousands of imperfect, continuous actions crystallizes into definitive achievement. If you trust this architecture of persistence and refuse to stop applying force, the payoff is a mathematical certainty. And one day, you'll look back and realize you made it.